And to get started, I wanted to introduce our project team. From Denver Parks and Recreation, you're joined with Kara, myself, and Laura. From our consultant team with NHN Consulting, we have Nora and Anhil, who we've already met, as well as Dean. And from Studio CPG, we have Eileen. I would also like to thank the Councilwoman for joining us this evening. Councilwoman Black, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Mallory. And I also want to thank the project team. You guys have done such a great job connecting with community members and making some plans for some great improvements in Rosamond Park. So thank you everyone who's joining us for this meeting. It's our second public meeting for Rosamond Park. Many of you know that Rosamond Park is a special park for me. I took my kids there to play sports growing up, and my husband grew up in that neighborhood playing there himself, and his parents still live by there. Rosamond Park's going to get some upgrades and renovations that are mostly funded by voter approved bonds, the Elevate Denver bond and the RISE bond. So thank you for voting for those. And the plans have been informed by Denver Parks and Rec Game Plan for a Healthy City, which is the plan that community members put together in 2019, I believe, is when we approved it. And the guiding principles are every drop, every person, every dollar, uniquely Denver. And those are the values that are informing this design. Tonight, we're excited that the team's going to unveil the concept plan based on your feedback. I know that they received hundreds of responses and input, so thank you all for doing that. And once we move forward, we're excited. This project's going to be fast tracked. It'll be designed this year and it'll be built next year. And that's pretty fast for the city and county of Denver. So again, thank you all for participating, and I look forward to the meeting. I'm going to pass it off to Kara Edouard, who's our DPR project manager, to tell you more about the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Black. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of the budget for this project. Overall, we have about $2.375 million, which seems like a lot of money, but certainly is expensive these days to construct these types of projects. We'll spend approximately 50% of that on the tennis court renovation, and then with 37% on the basketball court and playground area, and followed by about 10% in a conversion of about half an acre of the existing bluegrass turf to native grasses adjacent to the playground. So just a quick, synopsis of the budget for the project. Here's the schedule. So right now we've completed the survey number 1 and 2. We also had public meeting number 1, and we had a pop-up event in the park in early April. So we're at that public meeting number 2, and wrapping this up, this sort of concludes the public outreach portion of the project with the concept plan. And then we'll take this input and move into the final design process, kind of wrapping that up in the fall of this year and starting construction in the spring of 23, with that wrapping up in the fall of 23.
So thank you for being here tonight at meeting number 2. I hope there are some of you who were able to attend meeting number 1 as well. But in terms of participating going forward, this is our final public meeting. You can continue to stay abreast of this project by logging into DPR's project site, which is denvergov.org/park projects. We'll post tonight's recording. We'll post the results of survey number 2, and you can take a closer look at the designs on your own time on the project site. So as Councilwoman Black indicated, we had terrific response from the community, both in survey number 1 and survey number 2. We had over 200 responses to survey number 1, same with survey number 2. There was a mapping tool and an idea wall online where people left comments. We received about 160 of those. We also got to talk to neighbors at the park at the beginning of April. We were there on a Saturday and have had a number of smaller conversations with people very interested in various parts of the park. But in terms of who we heard the most from, it was neighbors, people who lived within 1 to 2 miles of the park and who used the park for recreation. So that's we got a really great local response. Tonight, we are going to ask you one polling question and one question in the chat. We're actually going to practice polling here in just a minute. If you would like to participate in the ask a question in the chat, we can read it out loud and have panelists respond to it. You can also raise your hand and you can unmute yourself if you would like. And then of course, for folks who want to view this again or want their friends to see the recording, we're going to post the recording in English and Spanish on the project page. So tonight, our focus is going to be discussing the final concept for the renovations in the park. The renovations are at the playground. It's seating and tables at the basketball court, at the tennis courts, and then we'll talk briefly about Bluegrass conversion between the water and the playground. So without further ado, I think we're going to give polling a try.
Okay, I'm going to launch this poll. It should pop up. What is your favorite thing about spring in Rosamond Park? Blooming flowers, sports fields and play, more daylight is more time to enjoy it, picnics, birds, other, get creative. All right. Okay, we've had about 13 people take it, and some are staff that I'm ignoring. So we'll wait for a few more. There we go. Okay, I'm going to hit end. And you should see the results on your screen. More daylight is more time to enjoy the park. I agree. That is the top one.
Okay, so I'm going to dive into talking about our concept plans. Everything has been very much informed by your survey responses, and we so appreciate you participating in the process. So in just big terms about what the playground is to include, as we said, we're going to include different play equipment from nature play and open-ended play and traditional play. But because we had such overwhelmingly positive responses about nature play, we're going to really do a lot of focusing of our budget and allocating space and budget to those nature play elements. And then we shared 2 concepts about one play area or dispersed nature play. And again, we got a lot of positive feedback about dispersing the nature play through a larger portion of the park. And so that's what you're going to see in our concept plan, which is here. So we are looking at the playground area on the east side of a path. So the current path kind of comes over on this west side of the basketball court, and we're going to shift that main walk over so that we can provide some separation between the basketball court and the playground areas. So this dark blue area is the main play area for bigger kids, and the light blue area is the little kid play area. And there's going to be a plaza space with seating that separates those 2 areas so that we can minimize the kind of collisions between the bigger kids and the littler kids. Then we're going to step down a little bit to a lower playground area for nature play. And then there'll be some nature play elements that are shown in yellow that are dispersed a little bit further out in the park. And those are going to really relate to those bluegrass conversion areas as well. There's a great synergy between those nature play areas and the bluegrass conversion. So in the lower playground nature play area, we're going to be looking at some scrambling slopes, some bigger rocks that are a way to climb and scramble, an embankment slide that uses that slope to kind of slide right down the slope. And then we heard a lot about a climbing wall, and we've been working with the folks who make those walls, and we found that we're going to get the most bang for our buck by including this performance boulder. This is a super cool element that's like 10 feet tall. And one of the things I love about it is that it has kind of an archway underneath it. So even the littlest kids can really enjoy the rock and that boulder and figure out how to get up onto it. And then there'll be some seating in that lower area too, but it's going to be stone blocks, and so that it will be a component of the play as well, but places to double as seating. And then the adventure trail that extends out from that lower nature play area is going to include some nodes for play that will have some boulders in a place, and then an enchanted grove of plantings, again, that relate to that bluegrass conversion area with some native species. The adventure trail itself, which will be a soft surface or different kinds of surfaces through that area. And then a sandbox that's kind of out in the park a little bit more. These are the survey responses. The most support was for this climbing wall. As I said, we've discovered that this performance boulder is going to give us the most play value and climbing value, and so it's real similar to that, but a little different. We're going to be including the adventure trail, sandbox and digging, the embankment slide. We probably won't be including logs in this play area, but we will be including those boulders as well. And so we were able to really incorporate a lot of these elements into the playground design. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about that main play area and the little kid play area. These are the places where those open-ended play elements and the traditional play elements are more focused. So the little kid play area is going to include swings with those bucket seats for the little ones, and a play structure that has some climbing and sliding elements, all scaled for the littlest ones. And there'll be a safety surface and accessible safety surfaces and access ramps into this area. And then most of these play elements are considered accessible, universally accessible. In the main play area, that's to the south of that plaza, we're including a rotating climber that can kind of have lots of different kids in there at the same time, an unstructured climbing element. So this is not a traditional like climb up and slide down play structure. It's more open-ended and different ways to kind of access and climb on that. There'll be 4 swings, so 3 ribbon seats and 1 universally accessible seat. And then these, a couple of these spinners, which have just a fantastic mechanism. I got myself completely sick testing one out recently. And then finally, we're looking at monkey bars that's scaled for bigger people. So it's scaled for the bigger kids or for adults. So it's taller and there's a little more space between bars, and it should provide that kind of play element for supervisors and teens in the space. So back to our survey responses. We had a lot of enthusiasm for that rotating climber, and we're going to be including something really similar to what I had shown, this rotating climber. It doesn't look like we're going to be including the sculptures or group spinners, but we will have those single spinners that got me sick in there. And then, sorry, next one. The traditional play elements, that all ages structure, that's the structure for the bigger kids. We got those monkey bars in there. We have swings, separate swings for the big kids and the little kids, and then a little kid structure. But as I said, we're not including a kind of traditional big kid structure. We're going with something that's more in the open-ended kind of play for that element. And this is an illustrative plan that just shows all the elements together. The playground area separated from the basketball court, this plaza that separates the little kid play from the main play, the lower nature play area, and then these adventure trail. Oh.
I am sorry about that. That was my doing. Can you reshare?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Okay. Everything good?
Yep, I just saw a guest waving and I smiled.
All right. So, right, so we have our adventure trail that kind of goes around the Bluegrass conversion area and relates to these nature play nodes out in the park. So that is our concept plan, and we'd just like to hear, do you feel like we captured your feedback in the design? And you can raise your hand to respond, or you can unmute yourself to respond, or you can post in chat. Maybe Nora, have you been monitoring that chat for components?
We have a few questions in the chat. We also had a very sweet thumbs up from the Price kids who were watching very attentively.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have a looks awesome, great work from Brian. But I do want to ask this question, which Kara answered, but I'm going to have her answer verbally, and we might even have Councilwoman Black jump in as well with regards to a skate park. There are lots of people who like to scooter and like to skate in the park. Was a skate park considered? And why was it not built? And I believe that there are plans to offer a skate park nearby, and maybe Councilwoman Black could jump in and explain that effort. Go ahead, Kara.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
here.
Okay. So yeah, go ahead.
We, there is an effort to bring a skate park to Southeast Denver. Skate parks do not cost $100,000. Whoever put that in the chat, they cost many millions of dollars. And so as part of Denver Parks and Rec effort for to look at new ideas for alternative outdoor recreation, one of the things that has been identified in that process is a skate park. And there also are a lot of people in Southeast Denver who are advocating for a skate park, including me. And so Parks and Rec is looking at various locations. One of the locations is by the Kennedy ball fields. There's a very cool abandoned drainage infrastructure that is something like 70 years old. It has graffiti all over it, and a lot of people have been using it informally to skate. And so they're actually going to do a feasibility study next year to see if it could be used. One of the reasons they like Kennedy is because it could be a recreation hub. There's a number of recreational activities there, and there's a light rail station nearby. There are not neighbors living nearby who, might object. And so there's a lot of positive reasons why it could be there. There are other places it could be. I know, as we are combating the heat island effect, one of the things we're careful about considering is if we want to take away grass and trees, which eat carbon, and replace them with cement. So there is an effort, and I feel really good about it, but it's going to take a long time, and it also would cost a lot more money than we have for this project. And so we have to get it on our capital improvement project for the future. Very long answer.
Thank you, Councilwoman Black. And Kara, if you could explain really quickly why it wasn't considered as part of this project, as you did in the chat.
Yeah, certainly. So the dollars allocated to this project have a very specific scope. They're bond dollars, and they were approved by the voters, and the scope was also approved by the voters. And that scope is a playground and a basketball court and a tennis court renovation. And so that's why we focused here on those specific elements and didn't pursue, you know, as requested, a skate park or other elements. We're really focused in on those three things.
And Kara, while we have you, one of the concerns from Joey is people using the tennis courts for skating and scootering purposes, and how does DPR address that?
We do have rules and regulations, which we'll be posting on the tennis courts. Of course, that doesn't ever prohibit, you know, like people will, who want to break the rules will go in there and skate on them. But also we are including a really nice new basketball court with, it provides a great opportunity for those kids that want to scoot or, you know, skate can check out and use the basketball court when it's not in use by others playing basketball. So I think there's an opportunity here with this project, you know, to use that court, and we'll just have to have our rangers continue to monitor the tennis courts to ensure that folks aren't skating on them, because that is against the rules and regulations.
Thanks, Kara. We're actually starting to get questions about the next part of the presentation. So Eileen, I'm going to have you get to that part.
Great, thanks, Nora. Okay. Oh, actually, we have a polling question coming up. We're looking at playground colors, and we picked out these 3 different palettes and wanted your feedback about what colors you'd like to see the equipment in. So palette A is kind of Broncos themed with some grays connected to it. B is orange and greens, and C is kind of a more muted greens and browns. And so we're going to launch another polling question about which playground colors do you prefer. I'll leave this up though for that, so you can look at the colors.
And the poll is launched, so we have votes coming in. This is an easy one. All right, we need a few more votes. So if you're on the fence, get it in right now. I'm going to close it in about 5 seconds. I think some might not have a preference, so I'm going to, oh, someone doesn't see it. If you don't see the poll, just in the chat, pick the one you like and let us know, A, B, or C. Okay, here we go. Okay, so yeah, C1 followed by A.
Very nice. Terrific. Thank you so much. That's helpful. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to talking about seating, and there's a lot of enthusiasm for both picnic tables and benches, and we will be including both picnic tables and benches in the project. We're going to be using our Denver Park Standards equipment. The benches are these ribbon benches, and the picnic tables seat 6. There'll be some accessible tables and some that have seats that go all the way along. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we'll have some block seating as well for kind of alternative ways of occupying the space. On the basketball court, we had a lot of support for the full-size basketball court, and so that is what we are including here. A full-size court that includes, it's all new concrete, the poles, backboards, and nets, and then striping for that. And then in the tennis survey, we had a lot of support for including 4 pickleball courts. And so we will be replacing one of the tennis courts with 4 pickleball courts. It will be this southwest court. And so this area is going to include 3 tennis courts, 4 pickleball courts, full concrete replacement, new fencing, new nets and poles, new lighting, the blended lines for youth play, and then a short divider fence between the two tennis courts on the north. There'll be a full-size fence between the pickleball and the tennis to reduce impacts between them, and then some benches on that north court as well. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about our Bluegrass conversion. Again, this is going to support all kinds of game plan resiliency goals. We're going to improve water quality by reducing irrigation and fertilizer use into adjacent Goldsmith Gulch. We'll enhance habitat and contribute to Denver's Community Wildlife Habitat Certification Program. And that's a program that you can engage with at your home as well if you're interested in extending that kind of habitat through the whole community. We'll be promoting biodiversity and pollinators, supporting passive recreation, exploration, and creative play, and especially in relation to those nature play components that are kind of nestled in with the converted area, and then reducing petroleum-based maintenance. We're looking at the main Bluegrass conversion. The for sure area is right adjacent to the gulch, and then depending on how our budget plays out, there's an additional potential Bluegrass conversion area. Altogether, it's about half an acre, just a little more than half an acre. And we will be removing the existing bluegrass turf and replacing it with a habitat enhancing short native grass and flower seed mix. And so this is going to have all kinds of different colors and textures, and will create a greater diversity in the park. So now I'd like to open the floor to further questions. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Eileen. So the questions really are about the tennis courts. How sort of a concern that there is a lot of interest in tennis, but we're reducing access to one tennis court. And Bruce asks if the team checked in with TJ High School, Thomas Jefferson, and Cherry Creek and USTA Colorado concerning the tennis courts. And I'm going to turn that over to both Kara and Mallory to explain the process that went into this decision.
Thanks, Nora. Yeah, hi Bruce, thanks for the question. I know we conversed on this via email, but I did reach out to Thomas Jefferson, and with Nora's help and Dean's help on our NHN team, we also reached out to USTA Colorado. The decision to convert wasn't done lightly. You know, we looked at the overwhelming support in both surveys for adding pickleball, and in addition to how many courts we have in the district overall for tennis. You know, we have 11 tennis courts in the district and currently only 4 pickleball courts. And so the decision, you know, based on the growing popularity of pickleball and the overwhelming support and the need in this area, we decided to go ahead and convert the courts, convert one of the courts to 4 pickleball courts. I think our department recognizes, though, that going forward, it's likely more sustainable and something we need to look into more, to have a standalone pickleball courts. So that's something that our department is going to work on, is you know, really determining going forward what's the best way to increase the opportunity for outdoor pickleball. But in this particular case, we did make that decision, and that was communicated to those entities.
Thanks, Kara. We actually don't have any more questions in the chat. Certainly feel free to add your questions, or if you want to unmute yourself, raise your hand and unmute yourself. We'd be happy to entertain a question. So we do have a question in the chat concerning pickleball at Eisenhower. And the reaction of tennis players. Do tennis players at Eisenhower complain about the pickleball noise?
Yeah, I think there are some complaints, both the community and the tennis players at Eisenhower is what I've heard. However, in this court situation, it's further away from the neighborhood in Rosamond, so I don't think we'll have, hopefully we won't have complaints from the community about the noise, but I definitely think, there likely will be some complaints from tennis players. With the addition of pickleball, I think that's just something that, again, as I discussed, something our department has to look at as to whether the compatibility of the two, whether or not they need to be standalone facilities. We only have so much money for renovations for courts. And so we just made this decision, as I indicated previously, to go ahead and convert this particular court to pickleball. So, we'll see going forward if there are conflicts. I think we're still investigating this as these renovations are occurring. And we need to investigate whether or not they should be separate complexes.
Councilwoman Black, you have your hand raised.
Thanks, Nora. I was just going to say that I actually support the decision to put pickleball courts there. I live by Eisenhower, and the tennis players do not complain about the noise of the pickleball courts. The pickleball courts are used much, much more than the tennis courts at Eisenhower. Some of the neighbors complain about it, but the neighbors live closer to those courts, which we wouldn't have that situation in Rosamond. But pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the country, and people of all ages and abilities can play it. And I fully support converting one of the courts to 4 pickleball courts. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Councilwoman Black. There is a question actually still on the subject of pickleball about Bible Park and whether there are any plans to put pickleball at Bible Park. Kara or Mallory?
No plans to add pickleball at this time. I think they're newer. The tennis courts at Bible are pretty new. I'm not sure the year of renovation, but currently no plans to expand that system at this point.
We have a wholehearted endorsement of the plan from Thomas Cisneros, who says, "Wonderful plan. We're so excited," which we sure appreciate. And again, certainly, if you have further questions, please put them in the chat or raise a hand if you would like to ask a question or make a comment. Oh, another endorsement from Emma Kay. Can't wait to see the new park. Thanks, everyone. There are lots of virtual thumbs up.
Say thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for doing the park. We literally live right across the street. Yeah, thank you for doing the park. We live across the street. We do.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating. We're so glad you're here tonight and that you got to see the pictures. Heart back to you. That's right. Future council kiddos right there. Well, I think that might be the note that we want to end on tonight.
Yeah.
And I'm going to turn it over to you, Carrie, to bring us home.
Great. Well, we are super excited. Thank you all for participating, and we are moving quickly. So hopefully you will be on the playground in the fall of 2023 and the new tennis court and basketball court. So this presentation will be posted on our project website that was noted in the chat, and it's also noted in the presentation. So you'll be able to flip through this at your leisure online, and we will complete the design again in the fall of this year, and it'll go out to bid with construction starting in the spring. So you will see some disturbance in the park in the spring through the summer of 23, and then it'll be open for enjoyment in late 2023. So thank you again for all the participation. We had over 400 survey responses and over 200 postings on our social pinpoint page for ideas. So it was outstanding, and we really value that feedback. So thank you all, and thanks to all the design team members here for such a great collaboration on the project. We appreciate it. All right, with that, I guess we'll sign off. Have a good night, everybody.